Okay, we're going to look at linking words in, oh, forgot my microphone, sorry guys. We're going to look at linking words in the next couple of lessons. And there's a very important difference that we need to look at. And it's the difference between contrast, direct contrast, bare contrast. And I think it is bare in the sense of naked contrast. Two opposing things are contrasted. And concession. And I've been reading a few different websites. One of my favourite websites on grammar is called Random Idea English Blogspot. You can find it on Google and it's amazing. And the writer points out that concession always involves an element of surprise, okay? When you concede a point, there's always something surprising, something unexpected. Now, what am I talking about? I just wanted to go through this because when we're dealing with linking words, some linking words signify concession, like although, and some signify contrast, like whereas, and some can be concession or contrast, but it does depend where they appear in the sentence, and we will see this in future classes. So you can see that this contrast or concession idea is important because all of these linking words, they're either contrast or concession. So have a look at the following sentence here, and I want to make it clear that some sentences could be contrast or there could be concession, and this is why it's difficult, this topic. Look at the following sentence. The number of girls has increased, the number of boys has decreased, and we can put a linking word in here. Now, which linking word should we choose? Let's look at what whereas means first. Whereas, which is direct contrast. Whereas only means contrast, yeah? The number of girls has increased, whereas the number of boys has decreased. This is just contrasting two opposites. If we use whereas, whereas is only used for contrast. So it's when one thing is opposed to another thing. It's the opposite, yeah? We have two opposites with any kind of contrast. Now, with this sentence, you might be talking to somebody and you might be trying to explain to them that there's something surprising about the fact that the number of girls has increased and the number of boys has decreased. And if there is something surprising, you won't use whereas, because whereas is just for contrast. You'll use although, which is for concession. So I hope you can feel how that changes the meaning of the sentence. If I say the number of girls has increased, although the number of boys has decreased, that introduces an element of surprise. You are surprised by the fact when you use although, and that's because although is a concession, and concession always involves some unexpected surprise in the sentence. Now I'm going to show you bare contrast and simply concession that isn't contrast, because even though this sentence could be either, and that's why whereas and although both work, this is very unlikely to be concession. Look at this sentence, and it's a rubbish sentence. It's very obvious. In Spain they speak Spanish, right? In France they speak French. We are contrasting those two facts, and so the only word that will work here is whereas. Yeah, I mean, there are other words that will work, but whereas is only for contrast, or usually only for contrast. Let's say usually. And so here we are contrasting Spanish in Spain, French in France. They're completely different and they contrast each other. But there's no surprise here. There's nothing surprising about the fact they speak Spanish in Spain and French in France. I'm sure you're not surprised at all. And that's why although will not work here. You can't say in Spain they speak Spanish, although in France they speak French. Or if you do, it starts to introduce that element of surprise. But there's nothing surprising about this. And so whereas works much better. Look at the next one.